Hello, I'm the 10-minute English teacher. Let's get you exam ready. Today we're thinking about Stave 1 of A Christmas Carol, and I'm going to be talking to you about methods and contexts. Before we get going, don't forget to like and subscribe. There are things on the channel to help you understand A Christmas Carol like an expert. Okay, let's think about methods and contexts. This is what we're going to cover in this short video. We're going to cover what takes place, that's AO1. We're going to think about quotes and methods, AO2. And we're also going to think about what the Victorian middle classes may have felt reading this chapter of the novel. So here we have my comic strip for Stave 1. I'm going to walk you through it in my own words, and then after that we can think about quotes and we can think about the contextual analysis of this chapter. Starts with Charles Dickens, the narrative voice, telling us all about Scrooge. He's as solitary as an oyster, which is why there's an image of an oyster there, a negative character who only cares about himself. The story, the narrative starts proper with Fred arriving and visiting the counting house in the early part of Stave 1. He invites Scrooge to Christmas dinner and Scrooge is not interested. Then we have some charity collectors who come and knock on the door collecting money for the poor at Christmas. Scrooge sends them away without a penny. Time to go home at the end of Christmas Eve to spend a day with family, or in Scrooge's case, a day alone. Bob Cratchit goes off home and Scrooge is annoyed about the fact that Bob Cratchit gets to spend a day with his family and tells him to be back even earlier the next day. Scrooge then, in the darkness of the evening, arrives at home, and in the door knocker he sees the face of his long dead business partner Jacob Marley. While Scrooge is eating his evening meal, he hears the sound of chains approaching from below. And then his old dead business partner's ghost, Jacob Marley's ghost, comes to visit Scrooge, talks about his chains and the fact that he's having to wear them in his afterlife and he's being punished for the way that he lived his life when he was alive, and tells Scrooge that 3 ghosts are going to come and visit him to give him messages that might help him to avert the fate that Jacob Marley is suffering. Scrooge then goes to sleep, awaiting the first visit of the 3 ghosts. So that's what happens in Stave 1. Really relatively straightforward when we think about it like that. Now I'm going to walk you through thinking about some of those key quotes. Now, we've got as solitary as an oyster. It's a simile and it reflects the idea that there may be something good inside Scrooge, but also reflects the idea that he lives quite an unattractive life associated with darkness. So it's a great simile that you can know and use. We've got Fred saying that we're all fellow passengers to the grave. It's a metaphor and it reflects the idea that he sees everyone else as equal. For that reason, he's a happier and more contented person for it. Are there no prisons? Scrooge says to the charity collectors. Now, this is an interrogative. It's a question. Scrooge asks many of them. He actually says to Fred, why did you get married? And he's going to say to Bob Cratchit, you'll want all day tomorrow, I suppose. Very frequently speaking in interrogatives, which is ironic because he should be questioning the way he lives his life. Boasted no greatcoat is a quote from the narrator about Bob Cratchit, and boasted is ironic, so we've got a bit of irony here. The middle class readers would have been able to afford a greatcoat and it wouldn't have been something they would have boasted about. Darkness is cheap and Scrooge liked it. We've got a binary opposition of darkness versus light, one method, and we're hoping that light is going to conquer darkness in this novel. We've also got here the symbolism of darkness. It symbolises being self-interested, greedy, symbolises consequence. All the negative things in this novel, the negative themes, are being symbolised by darkness. We've got the symbolism of the chains. They're a symbol for consequence. And then we've got Jacob Marley's ghost saying, I wear the chains I forged in life. The chains are symbolic. And he says to Scrooge, yours is a ponderous chain. Ponderous means to question. So this is reflecting the idea that the way that Scrooge is living his life, questioning others, is at odds with the way he should be living his life in order to avoid the consequences Jacob Marley is suffering. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to think about what Victorian readers might have thought about these moments in Stave 1, and also what might have influenced Dickens to write that novel in the way that he has done. So we've got the solitary as an oyster reference. That's reflecting the idea that embracing family and not wealth is what's important. We are writing for the Victorian middle classes, and he wants us to reflect on our own generosity and attitudes towards others. We've got Fred, who says that we are fellow passengers to the grave. So he's not judging people based on class. Now, Fred is quite interesting as a character because he is a middle class character himself, and he probably is meant to mirror the sort of attitudes and values that Dickens wants to promote in his readership. We've got the charity collectors, and Dickens was somebody who experienced his parents going to prison because they couldn't pay their debt. So it's a Marshalsea debtors prison when he was a child, and for a time he worked in a factory because of what happened involving his parents. So the idea of Scrooge saying, are there no prisons, is something that has a direct influence from the life of Charles Dickens himself. Bob Cratchit is a symbol for the working poor, and the fact that he boasts no greatcoat is something that is meant to elicit sympathy in the reader. They would have had a greatcoat, an overcoat to wear in the wintertime. They certainly wouldn't have necessarily boasted about it. It's a necessity and not a luxury, but that's a necessity that Bob Cratchit cannot afford. We've got the idea of darkness being cheap. We're thinking about the readers again. They're the wealthy middle classes, and Dickens is trying to reflect it on the idea that actually being generous with your money and caring about others in society is more important. Now, this idea of consequence and the chains and Jacob Marley's ghost, they are things that we can reflect on in regards to the reader, because Dickens is trying to get the readers to reflect on the way they live their life and to fear the consequences of the afterlife if they're not more generous in it. He's trying to promote a Christian utilitarian message, which means the idea of doing the greatest for the majority and not putting yourself first. Okay, if you want to take it further, what you can do is you can click the link in the description and you can download yourself my knowledge organisers. You've got my comic strip there of the key moments in Stave 1, and you get 3 sheets for you to make a copy of and then complete yourself. So in your own words, you can explain what happens in Stave 1. In the second sheet, you can fill that with quotes, not just the ones that I've told you, but you can have a little look and recall what are the key quotes that go with those key moments. And then after that, you can think about what the Victorian middle classes might have made of these key moments. And when you've done that, you really have thought about Stave 1 and all the different layers of detail and meaning that can be found in all of those key moments. Okay, check out the other videos on my channel. I'll continue to add content. Feel free to ask something you'd like to see me cover in the comments section. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share, and keep revising.